Welcome to Holiday Film Countdown. I'm Jamie Walter, and today we're going to introduce you to our film podcast.
Hello, I'm Tim Walter. Yes, it's a countdown, and we're starting with the holiday genre.
We all like to compare and rank movies, and Tim and I enjoy discussing them with people we know.
Yes, rank them we will, and here's how we'll do that. First, we'll start with the overall popularity and visibility of each film. Was it successful at the box office? Is it all over the streaming services? Do people talk about it? Next, we'll look at the prevalence of holiday themes in each film. Does it fit the season, or was it just a regular movie that happened to have a little bit of holiday, maybe in the background, or at the beginning, or the middle, or the end? And then we'll look at reviews by the general public. We're specifically using Letterboxd because Letterboxd is somewhat accountable. You have to have an account there. Next, we'll factor in our guests' opinions and their choices. For the lower ranked films, we let them select which would be included. And for the higher ones, say the top 25, their comments about their favorites impact those final ratings. And then basically, as a tiebreaker, Jamie and I are here with our input, and we'll decide where they lie at the end.
The format will consist of guest introductions and then drink selections, plus a quick thought from each of us on the film.
Yes, for example, I'm Tim Walter. I'm originally from New Orleans, and today I am drinking eggnog with Garrison Brothers bourbon.
And I'm Jamie Walter, and I grew up in Houston, and I am drinking Pantalones tequila today.
Yeah, and so that format will be following those intros, some fun facts and stats about the film, a discussion of the setting and the tropes, more talk about the actors and the characters, and then we'll really get into the heart of the scenes. And then we'll wrap up with parent guide, the moral, soundtrack, and reviews and recommendations and so forth.
Yeah, and our guests are people we know who we try to match up with films that are a fit for them and, when possible, their favorites.
So, in order to compile our list of films for the countdown, we screened 70 plus titles, plus researched another dozen films, and came up with this top 50 that made the cut. Each of those will get their own episode. Now, in this intro episode, we'll do a little rundown of the honorable mentions that didn't make that top 50.
First, we'll start with a group of very good films that just didn't have enough holiday in them, so Christmas is pretty much just a backdrop. First, let's start with Bell, Book, and Candle. This one could possibly be in our classic film countdown.
Yeah, this late 50s magic induced romance starring Jimmy Stewart, who, by the way, had two films make the top 50, was one of the best films we've viewed in the process of putting this list together and just did not have enough Christmas in it. And let's go on to the next one on the list, which is Black Christmas, a solid candidate for our horror film countdown.
Yeah, this scary movie was one of the original slasher films and happens to be the only film from the 70s to even be considered for this countdown.
Wow, what a rough decade for holiday films.
Yeah, and our next film is Trading Places, which is a good fit for our comedy film countdown.
Yeah, this early 80s movie stars Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd in an iconic comedy with phenomenal scenes, but just not enough Christmas air. And next we have Less Than Zero, the classic 80s teen film.
This is where I was introduced to Robert Downey Jr. for the first time, but it was really about his drug addiction, and the only Christmas was the party at the beginning. Next up is Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, this is the late 80s action film starring Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. Of this group we're going through now, this is the one most likely to be mentioned as a Christmas movie, but we just didn't feel like it has enough Christmas elements. And finally, the last of our ones that just did not have enough holiday in them leads us to Serendipity.
Yes, this is an early 2000s film with John Cusack and Kate Beckinsale. It's a great film, but the only Christmas is in the first scene at the department store, so didn't make our countdown.
This next segment will be a mini countdown of our honorable mentions. These are 12 films that had plenty of holiday content and are certainly holiday movies, but just did not make the cut for the top 50. The first of these honorable mentions will be number 12, Santa Claus the Movie.
This 1985 film, starring John Lithgow and Dudley Moore, is old enough to be a classic, just not good enough to be one. It has horrible special effects and definitely not memorable for me.
Yeah, that one was difficult to watch.
Yeah. That brings us to number 11, Mixed Nuts.
This 1994 offbeat comedy stars Steve Martin and Rita Wilson with an appearance by Adam Sandler. I really wanted this one to make the top 50. I love Steve Martin. However, it was just too wacky, hard to follow, and kind of poorly made, even though it's a Nora Ephron film. Next, we move on to number 10, Jack Frost.
This 1998 film starring Michael Keaton is about Michael Keaton coming back as a snowman. He's the father to a young boy and he's in a car accident, and it's so far fetched with him coming back as a creepy snowman that it was just really too hard to watch.
I agree. I had enough of it pretty quick.
Yeah.
But I will mention that Michael Keaton does appear in the top 50. So stay tuned.
Okay. Well, that brings us to number 9, Happy Christmas.
Yeah, this 2014 film starring Anna Kendrick is an indie flick that feels kind of like a train wreck reality show. She's kind of lost her way and goes to stay with her brother and his wife. It just has this dark feel to it.
Yeah, even the lighting in it.
Right.
Not just the story, but the lighting was very dark, and there wasn't a character that I could root for. I really just did not like any of the characters.
Yeah. So, some folks, if you're a big fan of Anna Kendrick, this might be for you. It's actually rated pretty high in some of the reviews,
Yeah.
but also Anna Kendrick does appear in the top 50 countdown. Our next honorable mention is number 8, The Night Before.
This is a 2015 film starring Seth Rogen, and it's about three best friends, buddies, that get together every Christmas because one of the friends has lost his parents. So they kind of take the place of his family. But now that they're in full on adulthood, one is getting ready to have a baby, and one friend is becoming famous and not as available. So they know this is going to be their last hurrah Christmas together. And with that being said, they go full in to party mode. And to me, it was a little over the top with the raunch and just things that were going on. I don't mind a little, but this was a little too much for me. Now we're at number 7, Surviving Christmas.
This 2004 film brings an incredible cast: Ben Affleck, James Gandolfini, Catherine O'Hara, Christina Applegate. I had so much hope for it, but it just did not deliver. It's a story of Ben Affleck as the lead, who is a very successful business person in the city, decides he wants to see his home that he grew up in, and then decides that he'd like to spend Christmas with the family who lives there now and is willing to pay them. Kind of a fun, wacky premise, but just doesn't deliver through the end. The first third is fun, but then it gets old pretty quick. Okay, and our next honorable mention is number 6, Last Christmas.
This is a 2019 British rom dram inspired by George Michael's music, which I'm a big fan of George Michael's music. I actually think maybe that the music might be the best part of this movie.
I agree.
I just couldn't get over the main character not getting out of her own way. I just had a problem with the character, and that kind of held me back with this movie.
Okay, well, this is our first film featuring an angel, of which many more are to come. I like some of the scenes. I liked her interaction with her boss in the
Christmas story.
Christmas all the time gift shop. But in the end, it just wasn't good enough, didn't flow, drug along at points, and it was just overall a little too somber and did not make the cut.
Yes, I agree. And that leads us to number 5, Office Christmas Party.
This 2016 film starring Jason Bateman and Jennifer Aniston is the story of a tech company throwing a blowout Christmas party to save the company essentially by wooing a client, and had some fun scenes. I particularly liked the HR director, played by Kate McKinnon. She was ultra politically correct and
Like,
remember,
it's not a Christmas party, it's a non denominational holiday mixer.
yeah, exactly. Fun stuff we can all relate to, I hope. Overall, fun scenes, decent movie. I wouldn't tell you to stop watching it or not watch it, but just wasn't good enough to make our cut in our top 50.
Yeah, I agree. It was entertaining, but it's not a movie that I would watch over and over. I could watch it again. but I was entertained while I was watching it the first time.
Yeah. Okay. And then our next honorable mention is number 4, Noel.
This is a 2004 romantic drama starring Susan Sarandon and Paul Walker. It's basically a story that revolves around a group of characters whose lives intersect unexpectedly, but maybe it's more defiantly. It has all the emotions and feels of a typical Christmas story. There's struggle, there's hope, there's connections, there's loneliness, there's, all the typical feelings that you would think would come out of a Christmas movie. And I personally feel like this is a really good Christmas film, just didn't quite make the mark.
Yeah, there's another angel in this one, a cameo by Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Really wanted to get Robin Williams in our top 50, just did not happen.
Mhm.
Decent movie. I'd say watch it if it's on. It has a somber feel to it, but it's a quality make.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so moving on to our number three, which is Krampus.
This is a 2015 comedy horror film which tells the tale of Krampus, the mythological alpine creature who punishes the naughty children during the Christmas season. It starts out fun. I like the house, how they all gather, and it seems like it's going to be a good time. You know it's not going to stay that way. And I love all the snow happening outside, and it feels like here we are for a cozy Christmas. But then things go wrong. Things go wrong.
The power goes out.
And the part that gets frustrating after that setup is that each person in the house leaves one by one but doesn't come back. So it's just this kind of frustrating
Power.
retelling of an older horror film. And if you're really into horror, this might be one for you. And our next honorable mention is number 2, Dr. Seuss's The Grinch.
Yes, this is the 2018 animated remake of Dr. Seuss's The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, which I don't think we need to say too much about the plot of this one. I think we all know it. It's a good version. We just feel that there's a better one. So there's better to come, but there's nothing really bad to say about this film.
Yeah, by all means, it was pretty well made. And if you're interested, check it out. It's an enjoyable film. It just, like Jamie said, we went with the different version that was better received per the feedback of our folks.
Yeah. All right. I think that's all we need to say on that one. And that will bring us to number one, Home for the Holidays.
Yeah, our final honorable mention is this 1995 dramatic comedy starring Holly Hunter and Robert Downey Jr. And it's a tale of a family all coming together for the holiday season. This theme will be recurring as we move through our countdown, of course. It had some funny scenes, and it's here for a reason, almost making the cut. We offered it to some of our first guests, and we had no takers. So here it is, the final one not in.
We can all relate to going home or at least gathering for the holidays with your family and what all that brings, different personalities, different interests. They're all coming from different directions. And
Everyone at a different stage in their life and trying to hold it together. And that's really what this is about for the lead character. And we have a bunch of films that do it better than this.
yes, we do. And that's the last of our honorable mentions. Thanks for listening.
Yes, please join us for the countdown of our top 50 holiday films. Our first episode takes us to Chicago and the North Pole.